Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Uh, this is very strange circumstances we find ourselves in. Uh, just a couple business items here. If you can hear me okay, would you please type the word yes into the chat window? Okay, awesome. It looks like just about everybody is hearing me okay. Great. All right, so folks, let me just mention a little bit about the environment you're in. Probably some of you have used a Zoom meeting before. If you haven't, the most important thing is that a couple things to keep in mind is that you notice that your microphones are all muted at this time. During our our class time together, if you need to talk to me, feel free to unmute your microphone and speak out, and I'll pause what I'm doing to give you your attention that you need, okay? So feel free to unmute the microphone as you need to talk to me. Also, feel free to type into the chat window if you have a question or something. I will try to stop and check those comments so that I can address your concerns. Also, if you do have video capability, feel free, if you're comfortable, turning that on. You know, this is very unusual for me because normally I can look at you during class and I can see you. I can see your facial expressions. I can see whether you're confused or frustrated. But in front of a computer screen like this, it's sort of blank. It's really hard for me to tell if you're following along, if you're understanding, if you're struggling with something. So feel free to turn your video on if you're comfortable doing that. And feel free to unmute the microphone if you have something that you want to talk about. If you have a question or comment, that's totally okay. Okay, so welcome back, gang. I had hoped that I would be greeting you in person, but as I mentioned, I guess Mother Nature has other plans for us. So let me just start by asking you, how are you doing right now? I mean, this is a very stressful time. There's a lot of chaos around us. All the news reports are very depressing. So how are you doing right now? Do you have any stories you'd like to share? Do you have any questions about the coronavirus? Is there anything you'd like to talk about right now before we start new content? Do any of you know anybody that's been diagnosed with the coronavirus or that is suspected to have the coronavirus? If my answer to that question is yes, I do know a few people that may have it. So it's definitely in our community at this time. Okay, I'm hearing from Kalina that it's allergy season and some people have been laid off. Yes, this is a very difficult time, and I hope our government can do the right thing to provide the financial support that people need. Let's keep our fingers crossed, folks. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we'll go through today's class, and again, I'll give you more opportunity to talk and express your thoughts and feelings at the end. Let me just cover the revised syllabus that I sent out through email, okay? So if you have the revised syllabus in front of you, okay, we're going to take a look at the revised syllabus. There's not, for our course, we're kind of fortunate. There did not need to be very many major changes. Everything in the lecture schedule that we've already done or would have done but missed because of our time off, I've already highlighted in gray and put a line through it and updated the dates on everything. Okay. I'm hearing from Terry on the chat that a friend of his passed away. I'm very sorry to hear that, Terry. Am I reading your question right, Terry, that your friend passed away of COVID-19? I'm very sorry to hear that. We are going to lose people that we care about. This is a really bad circumstance. I'm sorry to hear that. A question from Kalisha. How safe is it to continue working as a CNA? That's very hard to answer. Everybody has a personal decision at this time about whether they're going to hide from reality or be part of the solution. It is, the danger level has definitely increased, but hopefully in your work environment, Kalisha, you have protective gear. Do you have face masks, facial shields, things like this, and protective gloves? Those can help mitigate the situation. But yes, this is a very challenging time for us. Kalisha, if you want to talk after class about this, I'd be happy to do that. Okay. All right. So a question from Kyra, or is it Kira?
Kira.
Kira, thank you, Kira. Kira, do you expect this to continue through the summer? Very possible through midsummer. From what I'm reading and hearing, you know, the situation in Italy is very bad right now. And from the news reports that I have read, the doctors in Italy in November and December were noticing some very peculiar cases of pneumonia, some cases of pneumonia that seemed a little odd, but they didn't think much of it at the time. It turns out that those cases of pneumonia in November and December were probably coronavirus cases that were hitting them back then. So they got hit back in November and December from probable coronavirus cases, and now they're getting hit very hard here in March with it. So I think we can expect several months of problems here in the United States as well. I would like to be hopeful and think that we might get back to school, but right now I think the chances are very strong that we won't get back to school before the end of the semester. So we have to be ready to do our best with the online teaching scenario, and I will try my best to give you the support that you need to be successful. So I'm seeing Riley's comment down. Do you know if HAC is planning to continue the rest of the semester virtually? That is our continuing game plan until conditions improve. So we will be online until public health officials determine that it is safe to return back to school. Okay. All right. So question from Eileen. How are we going to do lab tests? At this point, you're already familiar with the ClassMarker website. All testing is going to be through ClassMarker at this point. So in the weeks and days ahead, I have got to convert exams that I would normally give you in person to ClassMarker. So you can expect in the next few days to hear some more information from me about that. Okay, Kelly's, I see your message about audio problems. Go ahead and see if you can come in and out of the meeting, see if that fixes it. Okay, I know it's a scary time, gang, but you know, having something to focus on like a class can actually help your emotional and mental health, because it's a little bit of normal stuff we have to do. Okay, so in these challenging times, I'm not taking roll call in any way. You are not required to be here. If other demands on your life require you to be away from our class, you go ahead and do that and take care of yourself and your loved ones. As I mentioned in email and in your syllabus, I will be recording these lectures. My game plan is after the lectures are done, I will convert them to an appropriate video format. I will upload them to YouTube, and I will share the YouTube link with you so that even if you can't attend in real time, you will be able to download the video and watch the lecture so that you don't fall behind. Okay. Is that going to change over to a pass or fail system rather than the ABC? We have no plans to do that at this time, Carlos. We're still planning on maintaining as much normalcy in our grading process as possible. Anything else, gang? Okay. Keep the questions coming. If I miss them, or if you really need my attention, unmute your microphone and speak out. It's okay. All right. So, if you didn't get the revised syllabus, please send me an email and I'll be sure that you get it. But I'm hopeful that everyone did get the revised syllabus. Okay. So there is no lab exam today. You were scheduled for a lab exam the day you returned from break. And that just doesn't make sense since we have a bunch of new things to consider. You will have lab exam next Monday using class marker. So the study guide I gave you for lab is still valid, and those are still the topics and questions you will be tested on next Monday using the class marker website. Okay? All right. So also, I will be lecturing on content till about 1:45. Then we'll take a small break, and I will stay online from 2 to 3 o'clock as sort of a virtual office hour. If you have questions or concerns about any course content, or you just want to chat in any way about something that's on your mind, I will be here, and you can pop in and out during that time and just chat if you want to. Okay? All right. In terms of lab exercises, on the back page of the revised syllabus, there's not too much I can do with you online to replicate the activities we would have done in person. But there are a couple labs there are parts of the labs you really can do on your own at home. For example, lab number 4 is sort of an activity that you could do at home on your own. And I would encourage you to do it because it will be something that will be part of your lab exam too at the end of the semester. So try to read through the lab activities on a weekly basis, taking note of things that you can kind of do on your own. Bring up questions during our time together, send me emails, and we will do the best we can to get through this together. Question, do we have to read chapter 8? Let me see here. Chapter 8 was on the nervous system. Please give me a thumbs up. For those that have some video on, please give me a thumbs up if I've lectured on the nervous system. Did I lecture on the nervous system? Okay. Did I lecture to you about, I lectured to you about the meninges, right? Did I lecture about meninges? Please type yes into the chat window if I lectured on meninges. Okay, I'm seeing yes from Maddie that I did. Okay, so yeah, you do have to read chapter 8. We've actually already covered chapter 8, okay? So we've covered the nervous system chapters 7 and 8 before break. So yes, you do need to read those if you haven't, and do your best to stay up with things. Okay, gang, I'm going to start some new content in chapter 9, which is the senses, okay? And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to share my screen with you and bring up a Microsoft Word document, and I'm going to type some notes into that document. I want to encourage you, wherever you're viewing our class together, that you make it your personal study space, that you make it the same kind of space you would do at school, that you have your textbook next to you, and that you maybe have a pen or pencil, some colored markers around if we need to draw anything. Okay, so make yourself comfortable. Please have your textbook available. So if I say, look at figure 9.1, you can do that. Okay. All right, gang. So let's get started here. Chapter 9, the sensory systems. I'm going to start sharing my screen with you at this time. And we have this. Okay. So this is Biology 111, Chapter 9. Today's date is the 23rd. These are notes. Okay. I will send you these notes through email, and I will send you a link to the eventual YouTube video that you get. But I want to encourage you with our time together that you actually handwrite your notes. Believe it or not, there's very good evidence that writing notes helps you absorb content, helps you learn, helps you understand. So please don't be passive here. Don't just sit here and listen to me. Actually write notes and stay part of the process as we go through it. It will help you to learn. It will help you to understand. Okay. All right. Please give me a thumbs up if you can see the Microsoft Word document. Okay. Thank you. All right. Here we go, gang. So chapter 9, let me give you some background definitions or some opening definitions here about our content today. All right. Well, the first phrase is sensory receptors. Okay. Now, when you think sensory receptor, maybe a good example would be a taste bud. Think about the taste buds on the surface of your tongue. If you have your textbook available, I want to encourage you to have that for each class. Take a look at the end of the chapter, page 168, figure 917. Figure 917 shows you an example of a taste bud. A taste bud is a sensory receptor. And notice that the taste bud is made of more than one cell. So a sensory receptor does not have to be a single cell. It can be a group of cells that form a structure. Okay, so sensory receptors are structures that are specialized to detect and respond to changes in the environment. An example would be the taste bud. Okay, the taste bud is made of a group of cells. It's made of a group of cells. It's not just a single cell. Okay, it is true. Okay, I'm going to come out and back up a bit here. Okay, so the definition on the screen is structures that are specialized to detect and respond to changes in the environment. Okay, so this can be made of multiple cells like the taste bud, but whatever group of cells you have, it will always involve a neuron because the nervous system has to be aware of what's changing in the environment. Okay? Okay, so it can be made of multiple cells, but it always has a neuron because the nervous system has to be aware of it. Okay, again, gang, if I start going too fast, you slow me down, unmute your microphone and tell me, hey, Dr. Allen, slow down, because I can probably type faster than I can write notes on the board. I can probably type faster than you can handwrite notes. And I do want you to handwrite notes. That's important. Okay. Number 2, a stimulus. Okay, a stimulus from a science perspective is a change in the environment that the body can detect. A change in the environment that the body can detect. Now, please note that that stimulus can be detected by the body, but it doesn't necessarily mean you can consciously detect it. For example, I wish I was with you right now because I would really, really, really like to see your response on this, but just think to yourself, can you feel the temperature in your room right now? Is your skin cold? Is it warm? I mean, you have some conscious awareness of that. But can you feel the blood pressure in the aorta coming off your heart right now? Are you consciously aware of the blood pressure in the aorta coming off your heart? Not really. So that's my point, is that your body can be aware of stimuli, but that doesn't necessarily mean you are consciously aware of the stimulus. Doesn't necessarily mean you are consciously aware of the stimulus. Your body is aware of it, but it doesn't mean you're consciously aware of it. Okay. All right, so that's what stimulus is. Number 3, sensation. Sensation is awareness of the stimulus, okay? The stimulus is the change in the environment, but the sensation is your body's awareness of the stimulus. Again, that awareness can be subconscious, your body's awareness of the stimulus. Okay. Do you folks know what I mean by subliminal messaging? For example, let's say that you're watching a television show and an ad comes up that lasts for, I don't know, 20 seconds. And the ad is about a car. You know, it's a car commercial for Volkswagen or General Motors or something. A subliminal message would be, as you're watching the car commercial, the people that made the car commercial would have inserted a piece of video or audio that was very short and very brief, so that you're not consciously aware of it, but your brain is aware of it. For example, maybe in the car commercial, we have 20 seconds of video, and each second of video is made of 60 images that are stitched together in the course of 1 second. Well, what if one of those 60 images is a picture of an ice cream cone? So you watch the car commercial and you see the car commercial for the Volkswagen, but once every single second of the 20 seconds, there's a very brief flash of an ice cream cone that you are not consciously aware of because it pops up and is removed so fast, you're not consciously aware of it. But here's the idea. You watch this Volkswagen commercial, and after the commercial, you say, oh, that's kind of a neat looking car. And then the very next thing you say, you know, I kind of have an urge for an ice cream cone. I want to go get an ice cream cone at this time. In other words, these small snippets of information get injected into the commercial. You're not consciously aware of it, but your brain is aware of it. And after you watch the commercial, you have this urge to go get an ice cream cone. That would be an example of a subliminal message. A subliminal message could be detected by the body subconsciously and do things to you. Actually, today, subliminal messaging is actually illegal. You can't do it in the United States, but that's the idea that I'm talking about. Folks, are you following me on that? Is that okay? Okay. So as an example here, think about subliminal messages that your brain is aware of, but not consciously. Okay. Next, we have the vocab phrase perception. Perception is the specific conscious awareness of a sensation. Okay, so if you go to have an ice cream cone because of subliminal message, you did not perceive that because you're not consciously aware of it. But if you go buy a Volkswagen car because you saw the ad for 20 seconds and you thought that was a neat car, then you have a perception of that sensation of that stimulus. And number 4, the phrase sensory adaptation. Okay, sensory adaptation is this. I mean, most of us probably were born and raised in South Central Pennsylvania. We live in an agricultural community. You don't have to typically drive too far to get to a farm, or to be riding down Route 30 or 283 and be next to a farm. Sensory adaptation is this. Have you ever been in a scenario where you could smell a farmer spraying liquid manure and it just smelled stinky, but 15 minutes later, you don't really notice it as much? Yes, you may not notice it as much because the wind patterns of the air might push the odor away. But it's also possible that the same fragrance is still coming into your body, but your central nervous system is just not being as agitated by it as it used to be. That's what sensory adaptation is. It's a reduced response to a repeated stimulus. Okay? It's like your 5-year-old son or daughter saying your name for 30 seconds straight, and then the next 30 seconds they continue to say it, but you ignore them, right? You ignore them. A reduced response to a repeated stimulus. Okay, gang, do you have any questions right now? Please feel free to unmute those microphones and ask questions if you have them. Okay, so there's a lot of topics in Chapter 9 we could talk about, and I'm going to choose to cover vision and hearing with you. So to cover vision, we need to talk a little bit of basic vision anatomy. So I'm going to ask you to please turn to page 154 in your textbook and look at figure 9.5. I want to define a few of these passages for you. Okay, some of these pieces of anatomy for you. Okay, so let's see here. Vision anatomy. You know, we are visual people. We rely on our vision every day. It's a major sense. So I think, you know, you will have interest in this topic. So use your eyes to look at the anatomy of the eyeball in figure 9.5 as we go down through some of these things. Okay, first we have the sclera. Gang, the sclera, as you look at figure 9.5, is the outermost layer of the eyeball. You can see it has a white color there, okay? What I'll point out is that the sclera is a tough connective tissue. It provides a little bit of protection for the internal structures of the eye, and it is actually the site where your eye muscles attach. So that if you tell your brain to move your eyes to the left, they do it. If you tell your brain to move your eyes up and look at the ceiling, they do it. Okay, that's because the muscles that control eye motion are physically stitched to the sclera. Okay. So this provides protection to internal structures, and it provides an attachment site for the muscles of the eye. You know, maybe you know somebody in life that has a lazy eye, or an eye that doesn't necessarily point in the standard forward direction that we typically think of. And sometimes those problems are caused by defects in how the muscle has attached to the sclera of the eye. In certain cases, eye surgeons can go in, cut the muscle and reattach it to a more appropriate location on the sclera to fix these sorts of problems. Okay. Please let me know if you have questions, gang. I hate that I cannot see your wonderful smiling faces for most of you. But I understand that, you know, you may not be comfortable with it, or you may not have a video camera attached to your computer. That's okay. So please let me know if you need me to slow down or if you need help. All right, let's talk about the cornea. Okay, the cornea is a layer of transparent tissue at the very front of the eye, in front of the iris. Okay, so just look at what the cornea is on figure 9.5. You notice that the cornea is deep to or underneath the sclera. Okay, it's underneath the sclera. It's located at the front of the eye, in front of the iris. Okay, the cornea allows light to enter your eye, right? Light has to go into your eye and go back eventually to the optic nerve. So it allows light to enter the eye. I will mention that the cornea is physically stitched to the sclera. Let me use an analogy here. Imagine, I guess we're technically in springtime at this point, but we're coming off the winter months. So a lot of times a person might have they might have an undershirt on and then a sweatshirt on top of that. Well, what would happen if you took the sleeve of your undershirt and used thread and needle to connect it to your sweatshirt? If you stitch those two sleeves together, if you pulled on the sweatshirt, wouldn't it also move the inner shirt as well if you stitch them together? This is what I'm trying to get you to see, that the cornea and sclera are actually stitched together like two pieces of cloth, two pieces of fabric. Okay, so the cornea is stitched to the sclera, and the shape of the cornea, the curve of the cornea, if you will, actually helps bend light rays so they hit the proper location at the rear of the eyeball, which is your retina. So the shape of the cornea helps direct light to hit the retina. And we'll be talking about the retina in just a few moments. Okay. All right, gang. Is everybody okay? I'm hearing some dinging. Is everybody okay? Hope I'm not losing folks. All right, let's continue here. Let's see here. But really, no, that's not working for me. I'm going to momentarily stop sharing because I'm wondering if I have some chat stuff here. Okay, so there was a message from Kalina. Are hidden images and logos considered subliminal messages? Yes, they are, Kalina. If you're not really consciously aware of some hidden image within a broader image, yes, that is considered a subliminal message. Folks, do you have any other questions right now? Okay. All right, we'll go back to the Microsoft document. And here we go. All right. Number 3, the iris. Okay, the iris is the colored portion of your eye that's behind the cornea. colored portion of the eye behind the cornea. Now you remember, and you kind of know because of the studying you're preparing for your lab exam next week, that microscopes have this thing called an iris diaphragm. The purpose of the iris diaphragm is to regulate the amount of light that comes up through the sample in the microscope. That's the exact same purpose of the iris of your eyeball. It controls the volume of light that enters the eye. Okay, notice that many of you know the term pupil. The pupil is simply the very center of the iris. Note that the pupil is the center of the iris. Okay. Number 4, the retina. Okay, this is a very important piece of tissue. Gang, the retina is your eyeball's nervous system tissue. This is the area of your eyeball that has photoreceptors that allows your eye to detect light. Okay, so the retina is nervous system tissue that contains photoreceptors. If you want to know what photoreceptors look like, you can take a look at, I think, a couple different pictures. Page 159, figure 9.9, picture B there has the word cones and rods in it. And figure 9.10 has an even bigger diagram of cones and rods on page 160. Okay, so the cones and rods you may have heard about in another course. A lot of high school health classes teach you these sorts of things. The photoreceptors are the rods and the cones. Okay, the cones, these are responsible for color vision. Okay, if you know anybody that has some sort of color blindness, like, you know, red-green color blindness, or, you know, there's different versions of color blindness. It's usually due to some sort of defect in a cone cell. All right. In addition to that, we also have the black and white vision. That's due to the rod cells. Okay. So the cones are cells responsible for color vision, and the rods are cells responsible for black and white vision. Okay. Now, just as a small piece of information, the very center of the retina, there's a little pit, a little depression in it called the fovea. The fovea is a small depression within the retina that has the highest density of cone cells, which means it's that region of the retina that provides your most detailed interpretation of color. Okay? The retina. There is a region called the fovea. Okay, there's a region called the fovea. Yeah, it is actually shown on figure 9.5. Okay, remember, we're looking at figure 9.5. So the fovea contains an abundance of cone cells to provide vivid color perception. All right. So I'll simply underline that. I'll also underline pupil here for you. Okay, gang. We're going to talk about some eye diseases in a few minutes, but the retina, as you might imagine, as nervous system tissue, is extremely delicate in the eye. And this area of your eye can be damaged by diseases like diabetes. Okay, so let me write down maybe a couple diseases here associated with the retina. Okay, diabetic retinopathy, diabetic retinopathy. This is a disease of the eye that's caused by diabetes, in which the nervous system tissue of the retina begins to die. This is serious because you can go blind from this, folks. Okay, so I'm gonna pop out of the share so I can go see. I'm hearing some questions here. No? All right. Do you have any questions about diabetic retinopathy or any of the anatomy we've been talking about so far? All right, going back to the screen share. Okay, so as I mentioned, this one is very serious. It can lead to blindness. All right. I know a woman at my local church that is now blind because she did not listen to her doctors, and she's a diabetic. She did not believe she had diabetes. She didn't believe it was real. And so she would not take their advice and would not accept the treatment that they offered her. And now because of that, she is blind. So what I'm saying is, people get stubborn. We all do. We get stubborn. We don't want to believe bad things are happening, right? We don't want to believe that people in New York are dying right now from the coronavirus, but it is happening. So if you have diabetes or a loved one has diabetes, give them a loving kick in the rear end to make sure that they take care of themselves, because it can lead to many, many problems, including vision problems. Okay, let's talk about one more retina issue. That is a detached retina. Okay, a detached retina is a retina that falls away from the back of the eyeball itself. Okay, let me see here. Let me look at my notes for a minute. Okay. Inside the eye, there's a special liquid that I bet you've heard of before called vitreous humor. And the job of that liquid is to literally push the retina up and back against the surface of the eyeball. It's the job of the vitreous humor to create enough pressure to push the retinal tissue back against the eye wall socket. If something disturbs that, then the retinal tissue can literally flop on top of itself like a pancake flapping on top of itself, like a limp noodle. That's a detached retina. And if you have a fully detached retina, that can cause blindness. Okay. Inside the eye, the retina is held in place by the vitreous humor. Okay. Inside the eye, the retina is held in place by the vitreous humor. All right. If If something momentarily dislodges the vitreous humor, the retina can fall out of position. Okay. This can cause blindness. So gang, how should I word this? Every year, people walk away from car accidents with partially detached retinas. Every year, people walk off roller coasters at amusement parks like Hershey Park with partially detached retinas. When you're involved in some sort of physical trauma to the body that shakes your head and skull around violently, such as a roller coaster, such as a collision with a car, that can cause the vitreous humor to slosh around in the eyeball and allow the retina to fall away from the back of the wall of the eyeball. These partially detached retinas typically go unnoticed and typically heal themselves given enough time and rest, and you don't even know it. However, if you get a completely detached retina, there is no way to fix that. There is no surgical remedy for that. A completely detached retina is not fixable, and you will be blind because of it. Let me go back to our video here just a moment, and feel free to ask questions. Let me share a little story with you. I work with a coworker that probably 8 or 9 years ago, she had a situation with a detached retina. I work with someone that was starting to have an experience where she was seeing floaties in her eye, in her vision. She was seeing floaties. She went to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor examined her and said, "I don't believe there's anything wrong here, but we're going to make an adjustment to your eyeglass prescription." So they made an adjustment to her eyeglass prescription. She went home, continued living for a few weeks, but the problem didn't go away. So she went to a different eye doctor, and the second eye doctor examined her eye and immediately said, "Whoa, you have a partially detached retina. I can see it." Well, the second doctor was so concerned about her. This was on a Friday afternoon at the end of the workday. The second eye doctor was so concerned about her that he wanted to do a procedure in the office to stabilize the retina, because he was worried that if she drove to the emergency room, or if even they brought an ambulance in to take her to the emergency room, that at any moment the retina could completely peel away from the back of the eye and she would be blind in that eye forever. So on a Friday afternoon, sitting in the eye doctor's office without anesthesia, he stuck a needle through her eye in order to inject a stabilizing fluid that would stabilize the position of the retina long enough that they could get her to the hospital. Long story short, she had eye surgery the next day, and then she had to, for about 3 weeks, she had to be off work, because when you have retinal surgery, you're not allowed to use your eyes. You cannot watch television. You cannot read a book. You're not allowed to challenge the eyes with activity because they need time to heal. So it was a very challenging time for her, as you might imagine, having 3 weeks off of work, not being allowed to watch television, read a book, or do anything like that. It was really, really hard. Do you know anybody that's ever had a detached retina? Have you heard of detached retinas before? Okay. All right, gang. Let's continue our conversation. Back to the Word document. All right. Okay, so that's retina. Next, we're going to talk about number 5. Number 5 is the optic nerve. Okay, the optic nerve is the group of axons that connect the retina in your eye to the brain. Okay. We'll be talking about, I'm going to give you an example in a few minutes about how light actually enters the eye and what structures it passes through along the way. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Okay, next. Now, I've already mentioned the vitreous humor, which is a type of liquid in the eye. I'll put that in your notes again. There's actually 2 types of fluid in the eye. The first is the aqueous humor. The aqueous humor, okay, this is a clear liquid between the cornea and the lens. And what this does is help create enough pressure in the eye to maintain the natural healthy shape of the eyeball. The purpose of this liquid is to maintain the shape of the eye. Okay. Every day, this liquid is drained from the eyeball and replenished by the anatomy of the eyeball. So what I'm saying is old aqueous humor is removed every day and fresh aqueous humor is created and put into the eyeball. Okay? Every day, old aqueous humor is replaced with fresh aqueous humor. So you might imagine that if you don't remove the old stuff fast enough and you keep pumping in fresh stuff, that you're going to have too much liquid in there, which is going to create too much pressure, which brings us to our next eye disease, which is that of glaucoma. Glaucoma is a disease of the eye characterized by an elevation in intraocular eye pressure. Okay. Glaucoma. A disease characterized by elevated eye pressure. It is often caused by too much aqueous humor, too much coming in and not enough getting removed. Okay, folks, here's a big deal. I mean, I know you've heard of glaucoma. I hope you've heard of glaucoma. Here's the big deal about glaucoma. And glaucoma is a silent disease. Okay, let me type it out as that. Glaucoma is a silent disease. What I mean by that is that it damages your eye without you knowing it. It causes damages without your awareness, This is very serious, okay? We have other silent diseases. For example, high blood pressure, hypertension, that's a silent disease. High blood pressure over time can kill you. It can lead to stroke. It can lead to a heart attack. It can do all kinds of nasty things. And usually, if you have elevated blood pressure, usually there's no outward symptoms. The same thing is true for glaucoma. You can have glaucoma for years and have this very subtle damage happening to the internal anatomy of the eye, and you're not aware of it. By the time you would become aware of glaucoma damage, so much damage would have been done that there's very little that can be done to rescue the problem, to correct the problem. So, let me go back to the chat window, and I'm going to ask you folks, okay. Have you had an eye exam in the past 12 months? A professional eye exam by an optometrist? Please type in yes or no. And it's okay to be honest. Wow. All right. All right. It looks to me that most of you had, and I want to say fantastic, gang. Okay, I'm ashamed to laugh out loud. Very good. Be ashamed. Okay. Now, after this coronavirus emergency has resolved itself, which could be a while, if you haven't had an eye exam in quite some time, a year or longer, please go get one. I know you're all young and you're superhuman, right? When you're 20, you're superhuman. But everybody is susceptible to glaucoma. It's not a disease exclusive to old people. There are predisposing genetic factors so that you could be a teenager and still have glaucoma. And if you're not getting an eye checkup on a yearly basis, there's no way to know if your eye pressure is normal. You can't feel it until it's so ridiculously high that damage has already occurred. So good for those that have had an eye exam. Please keep that good, healthy habit up once a year. Get those eyes tested once a year, because glaucoma is something that you will not detect without proper measurement in an eye doctor's office. Okay. Folks, any questions right now? Okay. Let's go back to our Word document. Okay, so we've hit a couple eye diseases, right? We've hit diabetic retinopathy caused by diabetes. We've had detached retinas, which are typically trauma to the skull that detaches the retina. Here we have glaucoma. So these are some things that I know you've heard about just living life in America. Okay. All right. One more thing. Let's put in the lens. Okay, the lens is the transparent tissue of the eyeball behind your iris. And its job, among other things, is to also help focus light onto the retina. Okay, it helps focus light onto the retina. Okay. So I think that's a pretty good coverage of some basic eye anatomy. By all means, if you have a question, please unmute your microphone and ask. Go ahead. Do you have any questions at this time?
So I do have a question, actually. This is because last time I went to the doctor, I was told that I had a red eye, and I was given some drops. And I was just curious because I didn't quite understand what causes red eye.
Red eye. Well, actually, lots of different things could cause red eye. Usually red eye is caused by inflammation of some kind in your eye. And so note, you did say red eye rather than pink eye, right?
Yeah, red eye.
Right, yeah. Red eye is typically caused by some sort of inflammation in the eye and the blood vessels of the eye. it could be because you were exhausted and haven't gotten the proper amount of sleep for a while. It could be because you had a microbial infection of the eye. Did the doctor prescribe any antibiotic eye drops?
I was actually given some eye drops. I'm not sure. I don't think they're antibiotics. They were more of fighting the disease in the long run and hopefully avoiding it or the infection.
Okay, that sounds totally reasonable, right? So if the eye doctor suspected an infection, he or she would have prescribed, an eye drop that contained an antibiotic. If they did not suspect an infection, then they would have given you an eye drop that helps soothe and lessen the irritation of your eye anatomy. So I suspect that's what was the case in your place, Terry.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. My sister, when she was a teenager, she had a lot of blind spots in her eyes, and she went to the doctor and they found out that she'd gotten some type of bat poop in her eye that was causing them. So for her, like for probably 4 or 5 years, every couple months she had to go to a specialist and get shots in her eyeball, like in the white part. What exactly would that have affected?
Okay, so let me try to understand, Kira.
Yeah.
So did you say bat poop?
Yeah, that's what they suspected.
How do they know it was bat poop?
I don't know. I don't know exactly. This would have been like 5 years ago, but that's what they suspected, that she got some type of bat poop in her eye, probably from like cheap brands of mascara. That was the
Oh,
suspicion.
Lord. Okay. All right. So maybe a really, really bad makeup situation?
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible. Okay. Well, and so what did she have to do for a couple years?
She had to go to a specialist every month and get shots in her eye, like in the white part, a big needle of something. I don't know exactly what it was, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I can only speculate about that, but I suspect that, boy, that's really a tough one. Um, as far as you know, did these injections contain some sort of antibiotic?
I don't know exactly what they contained.
Okay. And how many years did she have to undergo these treatments?
It was probably 2 or 3 years.
And
I would
is
think.
she done with those treatments now?
Yeah, she doesn't have to go anymore.
And is her eyes generally okay? No lasting consequences?
Yeah, there's no lasting effects.
Okay. All right. So I can only speculate, but if you said she was seeing spots, is that what you said?
Yeah, like when she would look at us, she could see like the room around us, but she couldn't see our faces, or there were certain blind spots.
Okay. All right. Uh, well, think of it this way. The surface of the eye is in some ways very similar to the surface of your skin. Have you ever had an infected pimple or something like that, where something on the skin was sort of something that landed on the skin kind of ended up underneath the skin and causing infection and inflammation? My suspicion is that whatever was in that makeup may have actually gotten a little bit underneath the sclera. And those spots she may have been seeing could have been due to the fact that her eyeball was having a really hard time removing that debris and junk from her sclera. So over time, they needed to provide some kind of medication that would stimulate the natural healing process of the sclera to help it clean out that junk. Okay. So without more information, whether it was an antibiotic in the injection or not, I can't say. So, but anyway, very interesting, and I'm glad your sister's doing okay. So don't wear makeup is the take-home message. Okay. All right. Wow. Do you happen to know what company sold you that makeup? Sold her the makeup?
She's like 20, 24 now, and this would have been when she was maybe 15. So I don't actually know, but yeah.
All right. Yeah, you really do have to be careful with some products. So thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
So I do have another question actually. I read this would have been like around about 3 months ago. I read an article that I thought was very interesting because I never thought people could get herpes in their eyes before. And this says there was a doctor talking about an infection in the eye and people getting diagnosed with herpes in their eyes. How is that possible?
Right. Well, remember, herpes is a virus. And viruses, like the coronavirus we're dealing with out in society today, one of the things about viruses is they do tend to have specific kinds of tissues they like to infect. Like, like hepatitis virus. Hepatitis virus prefers to infect liver cells. You're going to find hepatitis virus damaging the liver and not so much damaging the bladder. The same way with the herpes virus, there are different forms of herpes virus that prefer to infect the eye tissue rather than maybe the lips that you're thinking about for cold sores or something like that. Okay, so when you say herpes virus, you're not referring to one single virus. You're talking about a whole family, a whole group of different viruses. And certain members of that group prefer different pieces of anatomy to infect. So apparently in some cases, you have versions of the herpes virus that like to infect the cells of the eyeball.
Okay.
Other questions?
Thanks.
Okay, gang, let's keep going here. So I want to stop with the anatomy of the eye. Okay, I want to stop with the anatomy of the eye. And I'm going to give you a little flow chart that describes the path that light takes as it enters the eye and passes through the structures of the eye. So this is a flow chart of the path light takes through the eye. All right, so no mystery here. Obviously, you need a light source, and that's, that's going to be a light bulb or sunshine outside, right? The sun. The light comes off that source, and it passes through your cornea. From there, the light enters through the pupil of the iris. From there, the light passes through your lens. From there, the light passes onto the retina. From the retina, the signal moves to the optic nerve. And from the optic nerve to the brain. And from the brain, you become aware of what you are seeing. Okay? Now, a couple things to think about here, okay? Here's a question to you. I'd like somebody that's brave to unmute and try to answer my question. Okay? Here's my question. Within this flow diagram, where does the light information get converted into electrical information of a nerve impulse? Where in the eye does light get converted into an electrical signal, a nerve impulse? Carlos?
Optic nerve.
You're almost correct. The optic nerve doesn't do the conversion. So what do you think does do the conversion?
Is it the retina?
It's the retina. Very good. That's right. Okay. Okay. The retina is the anatomy of the eye where the signal goes from light to electrical. The retina is responsible for converting light information into electrical information that the nervous system can interpret. Very good. All right. All right. So, next question, and this is just a question for fun. Do you folks know what your dominant eye is? I mean, when you think about handwriting, we kind of have a sense of which hand is dominant. Like I'm left-handed, so I write everything left-handed. So in an equivalent idea, do you know what your eye dominance is? Has anyone ever showed you how to figure this out? Okay.
Well, with my eyes, I have different prescription in each eye. So the one eye I'm basically blind in, and the other eye is a little bit better. So I would think that the eye that's the best would be my dominant eye. That's just a guess.
That may in fact be the case for your situation, Kira, because you do have a unique situation there. Let me share with the rest of you how you can determine your eye dominance. Okay, let me finish my question here. Do you know what your eye dominance is? Here's how you tell. I wish I was with you in the classroom. It would be much easier to describe. But what I would like you to do is in the room you are at, if there is a picture on the wall, a clock on the wall, something that you can look at, I want you to stare at that object on the wall. And I want you to take either hand, I don't care which it is, take either hand and put a finger in front of your face so that as you look at that object, you can see a blurry finger in front of the object that you're concentrating on. Does that make sense? Now, keep that finger there. It should be blurry as you stare at the object in front, or excuse me, in behind at a distance away from you. Stare at the object with the blurry finger. Then what I want you to do is take your other hand and close your right eye. Did the finger move? Okay, close the right eye. Did the finger move? If the finger moved, then that means you're right eye dominant. If it didn't move, try closing over your left eye. If your left eye, if when you closed the left eye, it made the finger move, then you're left eye dominant. Folks, are you seeing the effect that I'm talking about? Okay, so as it happens, I'm left-handed, but I'm right eye dominant. Maybe it's similar for you, maybe it's different for you. There's no big deal here, but eye dominance means which eye does your brain prefer to receive visual information from, okay? Eye dominance refers to the brain, eye dominance refers to the eye that your brain prefers to receive visual information from, okay? This is not that terribly important for you to know, but it can be helpful to know your eye dominance for certain physical activities. For example, if you like to shoot firearms, if you like to hunt, it can be helpful when you're learning to focus through the sights to know what your eye dominance is. So it can be helpful when using a firearm or in certain sporting events, certain sports such as baseball where you're hitting a moving baseball, or golf even when you need to focus on the golf ball in order to hit it properly. So there's not too much practical value to eye dominance other than, you know, certain activities like this. But it's sort of an interesting idea to know that your brain really does prefer to get information from one eye or the other. Now, it is also true that some of you may have noticed that you get movement of the finger with either eye covered up, and what that means is you have codominance with your eyes. Codominance can exist, Okay. Okay, gang. Oh, Lord. Okay. We are technically out of time. It's 1:46 by my watch. So here's the deal. I'm going to take a small 10-minute break and be back online for office hours. You do not have to stay online. But if you have something you want to talk to me about, if you have questions, if you just want to chat, feel free to stay online and I will be back with us at 2 o'clock. If you don't stay online, then I will see you Wednesday at the same time for another lecture where we will continue a little bit with vision and then move into hearing. I'm only going to take about half of next lecture to do that. Then I intend to start chapter 10. So please keep up with your reading. Also, please expect to receive daily emails from me on the days you have class, because what I'm going to do at the very least is send you a video link to the recorded lecture so that you can watch it at another time if you want to, or if you miss a lecture, you can catch up on what you missed. Okay? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this time. Go back to the normal Zoom window. Do you have any questions before we take our mini break for about 10 to 12 minutes here? Okay. So for those that are going to leave our session, stay well. I'll see you on Wednesday. For the others, I'll be back in about 12 minutes, and I'll be happy to answer questions that you may have about content or coronavirus. We can talk about that, whatever you want, and we can chat a little bit, okay? So I'll see you in about 12 minutes. I will leave the video conference running. If you want to stay online, I will leave it running, and I will see you soon.
Riley.
Carlos,
I can't see anybody right now.
do you hear me?
I can hear you.
Were you sleeping?
No, I'm really tired. I just got done with work at 9 in the morning.
Not understanding why Shatiri has not texted me back, but it's
Because Mason broke my phone and I wanted to wait. No, seriously, Mason broke my phone and I wanted to wait for class to be over so I can go to Verizon and get it.
okay. Because I was like, I was trying to let you know that if we had to be on here.
I know.
Here. Hi, Carlos.
Hey, how you doing?
This is terrible how we ended up having to do this.
Not really. It's convenient. I'm making lunch for my kids right now.
I need to get out this house. This is not convenient.
I'm making burgers and fries right now.
Oh my goodness. This is stressful because that was my little break away from home. I'm stuck with them all day, every day.
Did you hear Mason? He's mimicking you. He's like, this is ridiculous.
I can't. Oh my goodness.
Well, I mean, in general, I'm glad that they didn't cancel classes overall.
Yeah.
I'm glad about.
Yeah, that is a good thing. I was worried about like how the semester was gonna end.
No worries.
Did he say how they're gonna do grades then?
Well, I spoke to another professor of mine too.
Hmm?
So I mean, what Dr. Todd said basically would be they're keeping the grade system, the GPA, which is to calculate that, which is the ABC system.
Okay.
Because I know like Penn State, and I think I'm not sure if Millersville too, transitioning to pass or fail, which is, and I'm looking to transfer. So it's like not good if it went that way because this wouldn't kind of like transfer to another school.
Okay. Because they wouldn't know like your grade point.
They wouldn't know your GPA. Like,
Damn.
get into another school, they need to have like a 3.2 or 3.3. You know what I mean? So with a pass or fail, that's what the reason why I asked that because I'm looking to transfer now after next semester.
Oh my God.
I need this to count. I don't want to retake these classes.
See. Well, the only good thing I found out is about my math. Apparently, you don't have to do like 033, 044, 055. Like,
Yeah,
I
they
can
Get
just,
rid of that.
they took it away.
Yeah, they're getting rid of that. Next in August again, they're changing all of that now.
They did it already. I was supposed to be
They did.
doing 044 and they were like, oh, next semester you can just take statistics. Like, I don't even have to climb the ladder to get there anymore. Which I think is beautiful.
That's good.
But then again, why did I have to waste my time at 033 then? Ugh.
I thought I could take. I don't know. I don't know. It's the system.
That's what I'm like. Statistics next year. Save your notes. Save your notes for me.
He changes it.
He does. They would. They just can't let people win.
The fact that this happened now when I need statistics for my BSN is great. You know why? Because everything's online now for testing.
Oh my
You can
God.
she was like, you can use your notes now. So I'm like, all right, awesome.
I like this. This kind of reminds me of back in the day when everybody had, what was it, Skype?
Yeah, I remember that. Actually, what I want to ask Dr. Allen is, you know how we took our first exam online,
Mm-hmm.
but it never allowed us to check what we got wrong.
That's true, yes.
Only in class.
That's
when he
I
showed us
thought
in
you were
class.
able to see what you got wrong.
I want to see what I got wrong and it can help me.
What
For,
she
like,
said?
final.
I thought you were able to see what you got wrong.
Not for the.
No, remember he showed us
in class.
Oh, yeah,
he showed
in
us.
class. Girl.
And the lab exams too that I'm a little concerned about because I haven't done a lab exam.
Oh. Does it change
That's
like
next Monday. Lab exam is next Monday.
that's what I just want to know if he's gonna because he gave us like what is it called? Oh my God. Like what we need to study for the next test for the exam that we were supposed to take. Yeah. What about the essay questions? Like, is there gonna be a way for us to like can we take those off?
No, I don't. I think so. When he said that throughout the end of the semester, he's going to be changing a little bit. I mean, to write essays. I mean, you see how long it took us to write the first exam. I mean,
damn.
It weren't like 2-3 simple. Sometimes answers. It was just answer it. But it'll be definitely something to see how he's going to make that. I'm a little fascinated. It's my first time ever taking online classes now. There's only 21 people. How many people do we have in our class?
About 21.
Is there 21 kids in our class?
Yeah.
I thought there was like 30 people. I'm like, there's people missing. And I felt bad for Terry, too. I apologize to Terry, man. His friend passed away. That's crazy. Like, that's like, it's hitting home now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to think about that now is crazy. I'm over here taking care of people, and there's people coming in and out, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I
think the scariest part is that, like, a person may not feel like they have it, but you have to be careful of who you come in contact with because you don't know who that person came in contact with.
This is like, I feel like it's scarier than like STDs. This is scarier than that.
Yeah, it is because I don't live that far from Chestnut. Chestnut just got shut down because one of the cashiers had the coronavirus.
A lady in Leola just had it. I live in Leola.
And I'm questioning myself, like, when's the last time you went to that gas station? But it's been a very long time since I went to that gas station. Like, I don't really use that one. I use the other Turkey Hill, but I've been in the house.
I've been having, like, this started, like, in December, though. But I've been having severe, like, migraines, you know. I'm not sure because I'm stressed out. Like, now it's worse, but I feel like I'm dehydrated, possibly, and I'm also stressed out.
Yeah.
I don't know what to focus on right now.
Even if it's not directly, you know, if you're not directly impacted by it, it's still having an effect on you. It's scary.
You know how, like, I'm so, like, I want to get tested, but I'm so scared.
You're fine. I mean, it's like
I don't know.
Are you having fevers?
No.
That's
I mean, my immune system, I like, to my body, I don't know when I'm feeling, like, sick because I've never forced myself to feel that way. You know what I mean? Like, I never took the vaccine for the flu. I haven't taken that in 6 years.
What about are you having difficulty breathing?
I don't have difficulty breathing. I just have this pain. I literally want to go to the doctor just to get a CAT scan. That's it. I want to see my brain. I want to see what's going on in here.
I don't even want to go anywhere. I don't want to leave the freaking house. I'm going to be tanned like a prisoner once I'm out of this house. And I've been following it so closely. Now 6 people in Lancaster have it. And then they're also considering releasing inmates from the county prison. And people are fighting against it. They're like, during a time like this, how do you want to release inmates? People who have, you know, murderers and rapists and stuff like that. It's just weird.
Well, that's the thing. I don't understand. How did he even get it? If there weren't a lot of visitors, how? I mean, other than it could have been a CO.
That's the same thing I was saying myself, so, but I don't know.
There are not a lot of visitors, and then apparently, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. One of the questions I'm going to ask him, though, what would he suggest the way to study? I need to understand how to study.
You feel like it's more difficult now, not, you know, like actually sitting in class?
Well, like, I never took an online nothing, right? So it's like, to me, it's like switching the game with me, like that. So I'm like, all right, so what would you recommend? I want to know what he recommends as far as, like, you know, study, just like the book itself, like reading it. Like, I can read chapter 9 tonight, but I feel like, you know, now he's changing everything. All the formats to the exams are going to be maybe similar but different. Mm-hmm. I mean, because we're not going to be able to answer. I mean, but we have a lot of time now, so it doesn't matter about time no more. But his first exam was 30 minutes.
It wasn't really bad, though. You didn't finish with enough time to say. I finished with enough time to go over my answers, but I just didn't.
I had 12 minutes to, like, left over, but then I started second guessing myself.
Yeah.
Which I'm not going to do that now. Like, I stopped doing that.
I just want this all to be over with.
You know that it's about to be April, right? April, May. That's literally 2 months left of the semester, and we're done.
I know.
Like, we made it this far.
Oh, my goodness. Jeffrey, did you see that he really put up the grades on the 16th? I was like, oh, my gosh. He's something else.
Yeah, I seen the grades. I gotta change my grade on this one. Oh, my other classes are good.
Oh, you're talking about the biology.
Yeah. I was missing it by 2 points, man. 2 points.
What, for biology?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a C in this class. I got an A and 2 B's. I need to fix that. But he really waited till the last minute to put his grades up. I was like, he sucks.
Dr. Allen's back.
Hey, Dr. Allen.
Okay, let's see here. Okay. All right, gang. So again, what we have here is just a virtual office hour. Obviously, we can't actually have lab right now. It's just literally impossible to do. But I wanted to provide at least a little time that if you had questions about content in lecture or any other concerns, that just give you an opportunity to talk about it. So I open the floor to you. If there's anything you want to ask about, if there's something confidential, I can put us into a separate room so that only you and I can talk, okay? So have at it.
My question is, since the only thing that changed is just the scenery where we're located, basically just via Zoom now. I mean, you know how, well, for our first exam, we had the essays part. How would that be changed now? I mean, will we still have stuff like that or no?
I'm hoping to. I know you would probably not like me to, but I'm
I
hoping.
did pretty good on that. I'm
Okay.
pretty good on those.
Yeah, I have to modify how I deliver this stuff a little bit to put it on Class Marker. But Class Marker does have an option for open-ended essays. And
Okay.
so I should be able to do that with you.
Now, those won't kind of give us wrong if we misspell like a letter.
Okay, so for the essays, I will have to manually go in and grade them myself. So the computer won't do that.
All right, that's good.
So yeah, the computer will continue to do the multiple choice and fill in the blank, but I'll have to do the essays for you to get you your final grade.
Okay. I don't know if anyone else is going to talk right now.
Okay. So I'm hearing that you get, Riley says she's getting a lot of microphone feedback. I understand. Some tech doesn't always work the way we want it to, so. Yeah.
Is there any special way? I mean, like, this is my first time ever doing Zoom now. And I wanna finish strong for the rest of the semester here. Any suggestions you would have, Dr. Allen, as far as?
Well, you know, with this new reality that we are all in, it's unfortunate that, you know, you have to be more of an independent person at this point, since we're not going to meet, you know, in person on a regular basis. But if you're continuing to take notes, if you're continuing to do the questions at the end of the chapters, for example, chapter 9 of your textbook has questions on page 170, right? If you're doing those as you should have been doing all along, I think you're going to be just fine. I will continue to give you a study guide 1 week in advance of each exam. That's not going to change. So I'm pretty much going to try to take everything you're used to in class and get it online for you so it stays familiar.
Now, for the essay part, would you still give us those questions in advance? And then, because it's one thing now that we have open book for it, but you still want us to put in our own words like how we did before.
Yes, I will still give you the essays in advance. And you're right. I mean, at this point, I cannot prevent you from using your textbook while you're taking the exam. So I'm not even going to try, right? I'm not even going to say anything about that. Yes, you have your textbook in front of you and your notes. Fine, go ahead and use them. There still will be a time deadline, right? Like if you were taking your essays in class, you would still only have 1 hour and 15 minutes to do that. And so for that portion of your online exam, I'm still only going to give you 1 hour and 15 minutes to do that.
Okay.
Let's see. Riley, I'm seeing that you wanted to ask some questions about COVID-19 being a biological weapon. Yeah, there's a lot of bad news, excuse me, a lot of bad news reporting out there. People have been concerned. First off, there's no good evidence to think that the current virus was designed by man in a lab. There's no good evidence for that. Could it be taken and used as a biological weapon by a terrorist group? Theoretically, yes, but you know, to take a virus like this and use it use it as an effective weapon, you have to know what you're doing. And the good news is that most terrorist organizations aren't really that bright, right? They're not that smart. So I don't think we have to worry about COVID-19 being a biological weapon. So, anything else you wanted to comment or ask about on that, Riley? How safe are grocery stores? Well, let's be honest. Hand washing only gets you so far. We're dealing with a virus that is spread to a person's respiratory system. And what I mean by that is anytime a person coughs or anytime a person sneezes, if they're infected with the virus, they're throwing virus particles out into the surrounding airspace. The information that I've seen is that those virus particles can stay in the air for a couple of hours, 2-3 hours, and still present a threat to you. And if those virus particles sit down on a surface, like stainless steel surface that you have at the grocery store, current data is suggesting that they're probably viable and dangerous for 2 to 3 days. So, the reality of it is you're going to have to go get groceries at some point. You're going to run out of food. You're going to have to get groceries. All I can say is that when you enter the store, try to use hand sanitizer. Have a plan when you get in the store, to get in and out efficiently. Don't dawdle. Don't look around and browse. Just go in and get what you know you need to get. And when you get the bags out to your car, if you have more hand sanitizer, use that before you put that stuff in your car. And when you get it back home, wash your hands really, really good. And whatever doorknobs or door handles you touch to bring the groceries into the house, make sure that you spray Lysol on them or wipe them down with some kind of cleaning rag after you get back in the house. You can make yourself nuts thinking about this stuff. There's only so much we can practically do. So those are reasonable precautions. But let's be honest, in the next 6 months, probably 75% of Americans are going to be exposed to this. Okay, Riley. You take care and I'll see ya.